Okay, so the time has finally come once again, where you sit back on your crusty-ass couch for an entire Sunday and watch big sweaty men ram into each other. But before the season officially begins, we gotta take some time to look at how each team might look during this NFL season, and for better or for worse, I will not be holding back here. I mean, there's a ton of positive things that you can say about this team, but the bottom of the line is, time is really running out. I mean, for my money, no team in the last 10 years or even more has come so close to winning a Super Bowl so many times and never won it. And at some point, that's just gotta weigh on a franchise. And that's adding on to the fact that you took a massive bet on Trey Lance, giving Miami a king's ransom in the process, and you got nothing to show for it other than Jerry Jones' sloppy seconds. Your offensive line has also gotten significantly worse, which is the most important part of this team outside of the defense, and just like last season showed, another Brock Purdy injury could just end your season right there on the spot, something that your team has shown is very possible in the past. But with that said, there is no multiverse that I can think of where this team doesn't win this stanky-ass division unless the Bosa is traded for some reason, so they should have a free path to the playoffs led by their signature Shanahan sacrificial running back offense. But I'm telling you, losing Robbie Gould might actually be what cost this team way down the road. That man was straight up automatic, so don't be shocked if the 49ers fall just short this season because of a severe lack of Robbie. Look, there is nothing more crucial to the Rams' success or lack thereof this season than Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford's health. And with that said, here we are right now, before the year has even began, and nobody can stay healthy. Cooper Kupp's getting injured left and right, and hell, even Matthew Stafford's treadmill isn't safe anymore. And although Stafford can walk as of right now, his offensive line is looking the worst it's ever been. So by week 3, I'm sure all of that will change. But this is the price to pay for selling your soul for a Super Bowl title, right? I mean, you said them picks, and now you gotta pay a price. Yeah, I can't lie, it's gonna be really rough this year, Arizona. Am I the only one here who's too old to remember when the Cardinals were one of the most feared teams in the league, led by the possible league MVP? Well, I guess apparently, because whatever flesh homunculus that has replaced the Cardinals we once knew is not the same franchise. Now, I will give credit where credit's due though, because the Cardinals did get rid of their two cancers in Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keem, but remember, cancer removal comes at a price. It's time to face the pain. Enjoy watching, Jesus, Joshua Dobbs for a whole season, and not Isaiah Simmons because he's gone, while your franchise quarterback becomes nationally ranked in Call of Duty. If you're a Cardinals fan, for whatever reason, I can't really think of a good one, but maybe you should just take this season off. Trust me, it'll be very beneficial to your mental health down the line. It still doesn't add up. How is Geno Smith good at football now? I just don't get it, and I won't be able to get it, and I know I got burned last year talking about Seattle, saying they were going to be the worst team in the league or whatever, but I mean, can you blame me? Well, I guess you can, because I was wrong to ever question John Schneider, and I won't question drafting Zach Charbonnet with Kenneth Walker already on the roster until I actually see it on the field, and then I'm proven wrong again. Seattle's just going to be another good team who gets a win here or there, but they're probably not going to go any further than their wild card ceiling. And what we're witnessing right now is the perfect rebuild. So take notes, Arizona. See what they're doing there? Because remember, you don't have to tank when you're rebuilding. You just got to get good coaches and a good GM that doesn't rack up DUIs and a solid culture. So just enjoy having a fun year, Seattle. But Geno Smith can't be good again, right? This might be my steamiest take yet, but for the New Orleans Saints, I see two very clear paths here, and they're gonna choose one of them. One path, I think they go like 13-4 or something, and Derek Carr's great, and they throw the ball about 50 times a game. But that other path, the Saints could very easily just crash and burn in the worst way possible, and we could see some Taysom Hill QB1 again. For both scenarios, all the pieces are in place, and although the defense is aging through ancient conjuring, Demario Davis and Cam Jordan are still good, and everything depends on the biggest question mark with this team outside of Derek Carr, and that is head coach Dennis Allen. Is he going to be able to help unleash Derek Carr and Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, and the rest of a very talented offense? Or is his inability to coach for his life going to hold this team back for another season? Look, as a Raiders fan, I'm just looking out for you, Saints. There are very few men who have hurt me more than Dennis Allen has, so I just don't want more fan bases to go through the same pain that we had to endure. You already know what's up, Panthers fans. Sit down, strap up, show me your war face, and let the tank run its course. And you know, when I say tank, I mean that in sort of like a Seattle Seahawks way. This team could win 7 or 8 games, but the only thing that matters is their crown jewel, Bryce Young's development. And even if that goes wrong, at the very least, it can't get worse than last year. I mean, remember, Baker Mayfield was your quarterback, and PJ Walker, and the neckbeard. So just remember, things cannot get worse than last year. So just keep reminding yourself that at the darkest points, and you'll be able to get through the season fine. Baker Mayfield still has a starting quarterback job. How? This division is so confusing. If you take a glance at this roster for like a second or two, it might just take a little gaslighting from your local Florida meth head to make you believe this team could easily win the Super Bowl this year. But if you string together more than 3.2 brain cells, you might realize this team is checking every box for a squad that will inevitably collapse into nothingness after a Super Bowl win. And talks about Ryan Jensen's career ending and Mike Evans possibly requesting a trade or straight up retiring are only piling on to this whole charade. I mean, you don't even need to look at this team's stats. They were just straight up bad from the eye test last season, and on paper are worse this year. And now, of course, it's time to address the situation that's fallen upon us. Please, if you would join me in a moment of silence to celebrate the career of Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. Thank you. The Atlanta Falcons, they might not be good this year, but I'm telling you, they are going to be a pain in the ass for any team to play against at any point in the season. I can all but guarantee you, if they don't make the playoffs, Atlanta is going to fuck up some other team's playoff hopes in like week 15 or something like that. They're going to go out there on the first offensive drive, look you dead in the eyes, and proceed to run the ball with their new shiny plaything, Bijan Robinson, about 25 times a game. Now, I'm not saying you'll ever be able to escape your past here, Atlanta, but I am much higher on Desmond Ridder than most people, and just like the Panthers, be grateful that Marcus Mariota is nowhere near your city. Best case scenario, you are the Tennessee Titans, and Bijan Robinson takes full ownership of Derrick Henry's spirit and ability to defy science. But you could also very easily just fall behind in games right away and be forced by the hand of God to throw the ball where things could get ugly if the coaches keep a leash on Ridder. But hey, as long as Atlanta blows at least 1 or 2 leads this season, then I think that'd make me happy enough.
There's a flag at the 10!
This team, hell, this division, just might be the most interesting part of this upcoming season. I fully expect the NFC East to be a bloodbath of guts and limbs, and even with that, I still would be mildly surprised if the Eagles didn't come out on top. I don't know what it is, but it seems like this team is just going to be fueled by rage this year, with guys like Jason Kelce and Brandon Graham running it back, and Hurts, AJ Brown, and others getting a taste of Super Bowl experience. No team will be hungrier than the Eagles this season, which is why they will win the Super Bowl when it's all said and done. I mean, what have they done wrong? They had a near perfect draft swooping up Nolan Smith and Henry Ruggs, added more depth to the running game, and retained an immovable O-line. The only, and I mean the only things that can bring this team down is a shaky defensive back situation or a Jalen Hurts injury. Besides those two scenarios, I don't really see a world where the Eagles don't climb on top of the corpses in the NFC East and go win a Super Bowl in the playoffs, giving Howie Roseman his second in his cold-blooded hands. Well, well, well. Luckily, my knife is still very sharp from that hour-long slaughtering session the other day, so trust me when I say this team's success rests entirely on this man. This behemoth is your only hope. Now that Mike McCarthy is on play-calling duties, Cowboys fans can only pray that he decides to use Tony Pollard correctly and, you know, doesn't dial up whatever the this was. Besides the play calling changes though, nothing else will be different. The defense is still going to be arguably the best in the entire NFL, and Micah Parsons will probably win the Defensive Player of the Year award as long as he isn't, Deshaun Watson. But Dallas, please, in this season, all I ask for you is to give me one compelling reason why you won't just blow another playoff game, because just by looking at this roster and this coaching staff, I can't even think of one. The curse, the pain, it's all over. And although Dan Schneider is now officially gone, his shadow is still going to loom over this team for a minute. And although that's probably going to be true, just humor me for a second. If Chase Young can return to about 80% of his rookie form and the defense continues to be more than solid, the writing is all over the windows and the walls that this could be the 2022 Seahawks reborn. And it all starts with quarterback Sam Howell. Call me crazy, but with weapons like Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson at his disposal, there is a very real world where Sam Howell turns out to be north of a top 15 quarterback in the league, and Washington might be this year's feel-good story. Or not, because Ron Rivera might not be the answer at head coach, and Sam Howell might be, Sam Howell. But all that matters is the bad man is now gone, Washington fans, so you can sleep well at night knowing that things are gonna get better from here. Yeah! So, is Brian Daboll like the real deal, or are the Giants just gonna go right back to being the Giants that we've all known over the last 10 years or so? And to be honest, I'm not really sure, but one thing I can say is that they are going to run Saquon Barkley straight into and through the ground this season, now that they got his contract situation semi-sorted out, and little is going to change within their offensive system. It's just the Giants don't really have much talent. They can work harder than other teams and be tougher and all that, and insert more David Goggins quotes here, but come on, their division is f***ing loaded. All it takes is one misplaced chair to end Saquon's season, and the Giants' year along with it too. And that's not even counting that Daniel Jones will probably regress with his only real weapon being his tight end, who seems more interested in his rapping career. And if Evan Neal doesn't develop fast, Danny Dimes is going to get folded, and in a matter of time, you might be looking dead in the eyes at Alex Leatherwood 2.0. But hey, at least Kayvon Thibodeau is good, so there's that.
Are you sure about that?
There is one singular question that is going to be answered, for better or for worse, for the Bears this season, and it will determine their next 5 years as a franchise. Is Justin Fields good at football? He's going to get an opportunity to prove himself, and the DJ Moore trade with Carolina is going to be such an interesting trade to look back on in a few years, and there will be a clear winner and loser of this deal at some point. For now, though, this team isn't going to make any noise this season. It's essentially just going to be a free-for-all where the Bears try and figure out what these teams' needs are for the season after are to be able to confidently gaslight themselves into believing they can contend for something. An era has ended. Aaron Rodgers has continued the cycle of Packers quarterbacks who leave Green Bay and go harass cheerleaders in New York and hand the baton off to the next youngling. And with Jordan Love at quarterback being one of the biggest question marks in the league, the Packers honestly have at the same time the highest floor and lowest ceiling out of any team in the league. If Jordan Love is good, the O-line can improve with David Bakhtiari getting Frankenstein back to life, then the Packers have all the talent in the world to win the division and make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. But this team could so easily just suck at the exact same time. For the first time, Matt LaFleur might just seem naked out there without Aaron Rodgers controlling the field. But an even scarier thought is, it didn't even go well last year with Rodgers. So I guess if there's any old DNA from a prime Aaron Rodgers left behind in his locker room or maybe his wooden hobbit hole, the Packers got to inject that into Jordan Love's stat, or else the train might go off the track pretty quickly in Green Bay. You let me down last year, Minnesota. You really did. And, I think I would have been right. I think Minnesota really could have been something special if, they didn't have the worst passing defense in the entire history of space and time itself. From the eye test, this team looked like a true contender for the Super Bowl. But the stats... Oh, man. The stats show that the 2022 Vikings were probably the worst 13-win team since 1978 and subsequently got pantsed in front of the globe in the wildcard round because they were frauds all along. Besides that though, the Vikings might really regret down the line giving the man who looks most like a Viking a gargantuan contract, but as long as Justin Jefferson isn't on crutches, this team is going to be good. Not great, but just good. Oh, Lord! Introducing every single non-NFC North fan's second favorite team from now on, the Detroit Lions. I am petrified of putting a single decimeter into this team's stock, but I can't help it. The Lions are just reeking of fun. They probably just had the happiest ending to a season where a team fails to make the playoffs, and with the continued development of the young dudes like Amon-Ra and Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions will without a doubt be a problem this season. Unless this dude ruins everything. As long as Jared Goff is still a good quarterback, all will be well, and the Lions should make it to the playoffs. Just please, do not sink the ship, Jared. It's really looking like the Lions might be reborn this season. With Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and others brought in to help the secondary, they will improve defensively without a doubt off of that alone. And hell, even the Lions' turf, which has been elite at ending careers, is finally gone. I mean, if your biggest issue outside of maybe Jared Goff is determining whether Jahmyr Gibbs is just going to be a DeAndre Swift clone or one of the best running backs in the league, then that's a good problem to have, and just, you know, enjoy your season, Lions fans. You really, really deserve it. But first, football season's pretty much here, so might as well spice it up with the sponsor of this video, MyBookie. MyBookie is an online sports betting website that utilizes features like parlays to make watching sports more exciting. And on MyBookie, you have the luxury to cash out early. So, for example, if I were to pick the Saints and Lions to cover their spreads here, and they both did, I could choose to either cash out early or let it ride for a possible larger reward. They also have tons of other features in sports to get into, so if making NFL, college games, and so much more fun sounds up your alley, then to get started, go to mybookie.ag or click the first link in the description and use promo code TubFrog in all caps to get a 10% bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Once again, that is promo code TubFrog, all caps, to claim your deposit bonus, and for a limited time, a free chip to use in the MyBookie casino. So thanks to MyBookie for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's get right back to the video. I don't like you, Russell Wilson. I really don't. You made me look like a fool in front of billions of TubFrog viewers last season, but don't worry, this year I'm a changed man because I'm doubling down. I know, but look, if this isn't the year where Russell Wilson's body double gets replaced with the real Russ we saw in Seattle, then this future Hall of Fame quarterback will eternally be remembered as the goofball who ruined the Broncos and ate burritos or whatever. Sean Payton will obviously not solve every issue they have, and nobody can, but I fully expect him to do what he did with Drew Brees in his twilight years, leaning more on Javonte Williams and short throws to mask Russell Wilson as a passable NFL quarterback, and to be honest, that seems like the worst possible case scenario for Denver's offense. If Russell Wilson can 1v1 Father Time and win, and Jerry Jeudy can come back quickly from his injury, then we might be looking at a very, very good playoff team. And, you know, I would be higher on the Broncos if you know, it weren't for him. I am just sick of this man. He can't keep getting away with this. It doesn't matter if you take away a Hall of Fame receiver from him. Hell, you can even take away this man's leg, and he's still not even fazed. Patrick Mahomes is the best football player on the planet, and he's gonna keep that title for the next 5 years unless he's assassinated. There's not much to it. As long as Travis Kelce can walk and run his own routes, and Mahomes and Andy Reid can keep siphoning up magic out of nothing, the Chiefs are easily going to be a contender for another Super Bowl, and with a third Super Bowl appearance in the Mahomes era so far, this team is only growing stronger and stronger, and history has shown iron just keeps sharpening iron. Sometimes. I know, as deserved as the Mahomes meat writing is, for the most part, with Chris Jones' holdout and the possible wear and tear of consecutive Super Bowls on this Chiefs core, there is a world where the Chiefs fall off their pedestal of immortality, and I think I know just the team to knock them down a peg. I'm pretty much breaking every non-written rule about the NFL this season. I'm believing in Washington, the Lions, and now, God forbid, I think the Los Angeles Chargers are going to be very good this season. Look, this past season was definitely a huge disappointment, but the major problem the Chargers had has been addressed, with Joe Lombardi getting the old guillotine and being replaced with Cowboys offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, who should be able to realize that he has one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL and will let Justin Herbert do his thing. Simply put, just like damn near every single Chargers roster ever, this team is oozing with talent. And if Rashawn Slater looks great coming back from his injury and JC Jackson decides to be good again, you can add them onto the pile. The only thing that is in the Chargers' way is, well, the Chargers. They are simply the Los Angeles Chargers. They are not allowed to be good at football. It's all right there on the depth chart. This team is loaded, but we've all been saying this for years now. So, honestly, I've just confused myself at this point. I think they're going to be good, but I don't know. Just don't waste Justin Herbert, please. Stockholm Syndrome describes the psychological condition of a victim who identifies with and empathizes with their captor or abuser and their goals. That is what it's come to for me. At this point, I've developed a sick fascination with losing. I expect to lose so often, even while holding insurmountable leads, that when the Raiders do inevitably fuck everything up, I almost feel satisfied. And this season, things might just keep getting worse. There's no world where the Raiders are better than the Chiefs, and unless Aiden McConnell gets PT, the Chargers and Broncos will definitely overtake the Silver and Black too. It's going to be the same year again. Max Crosby will carry one of the worst defenses in the league, while Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams do what they can with a playbook drawn in crayon if they don't demand trades. I'm really not sure how I'm going to talk about this team this season. It's not going to be easy, but at least none of our rookies have been arrested yet. I'm just going to say it. You're done. The Tennessee Titans are no longer a good, feared football team. And along with the rest of this miserable division outside of one team, the Titans are going to roll out of bed and poke Derrick Henry with a stick a few times and tell him to run his 37th HB dive until he needs a cane at the age of 44. Also, unlike in years past, outside of maybe DeAndre Hopkins coming in, there is not one factor going in Derrick Henry's favor. The man is another year older, his offensive line is unquestionably the worst in the entire NFL, and Ryan Tannehill's career is one ankle roll away from ending up on the Arizona Cardinals. Hell, even Derrick's long-shot successor is gone for good because he did the thing that NFL players tend to do, and all this comes together to form the perfect formula for a 7-10 season. Enjoy what's left of Derrick Henry this year, if there's anything still in that tank, Titans fans, and enjoy watching last year's New Orleans Saints every week, I guess. The Houston Texans are set up to impress a lot of people. Other than the Arizona Cardinals, pretty much everyone expects Houston to contend for another #1 pick, but this roster has potential, and best of all, under their new head coach DeMeco Ryans, the foundation of a culture has begun to form. Now, the culture might just be the 49ers 2.0, but with a running back like Dameon Pierce sporting that Texans logo, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. And with a young secondary led by Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie, this team's going to have a ton of energy for sure, but don't get me wrong, they're still going to be bad. And as long as CJ Stroud can make a cool highlight or two, this season will be an improvement from last year by far.
Uh-oh.
Well, at least you listened. You blew it up. And wow, yeah, you really blew everything the f*** up. And although it's nice that the Colts post-nut clarity finally kicked in after losing Andrew Luck, they still held out hope for way too long. And being subjected to watch this team take the field this season is a punishment far too cruel for mortal eyes. Anthony Richardson seems like the exact type of quarterback who needs to watch from the sidelines for a bit and not be thrown headfirst into the flames, but whatever. Screw it. Let's let the man just run around and hope he doesn't get Joe Burrowed and tear his ACL in his first season. But the purge probably isn't even over yet. You might have forgot, but last time Shaq Leonard played football, he was an all-pro. So don't be surprised when he, along with DeForest Buckner, get the Roquan Smith treatment in the middle of the year. Just like with every team who is garbage and has a young quarterback, all you gotta do is see some flashes and no injuries and I guess no Jeff Saturday, and this season should be mildly tolerable. Look out! I truly think we're in a new era of football. I'm serious. I present to you the future dictators and rulers of the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, this season's gonna be weird, but the Jags have checked all the right boxes for that description. They picked up a massive playoff win, battled the Super Bowl champions hard, with the help of Arden Key, and improved Trevor Lawrence's weapons and supporting pieces with Anton Harrison in the draft, and one of the most talented receivers in football, in Calvin Ridley. Now, although all of that sounds awesome, a lot can go wrong, even in a division with a singular man being more competitive than two other teams combined. The Jags defense added close to nothing, and if Travon Walker and Devin Lloyd have their development stumped, things could get pretty hairy. And even scarier, that O-line, which I know is bad, but all I ask of those large men is please protect Trevor Lawrence. The man is the key to it all, and if he goes down, not only does the team go down, but the whole Jaguars fan base would devolve back into the Chad Henne years. So please, just allow yourself to move on from the past, Jacksonville. The Dolphins are talented, and I mean very talented. They're loaded at all the right positions, with Hill and Waddle in the wide receiver room, and studs like Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, and more, but honestly, I don't think any of that really matters because no team in the league relies on the failure of others more than the Miami Dolphins. Although, to their credit, they tried to improve their roster, bringing in the best cornerback in football for like 3 minutes before he just died, and now Jalen Ramsey's done for most of the year. And while they did that, the rest of the AFC has just been a little bit more busy. So basically put, Miami will be good if other teams just screw up, and that's assuming that Tua is still the franchise guy in Miami. But don't sweat it, Miami fans, because if Tua does get hurt this year, just know you will be in very good hands. The New York Jets completely overhauled their roster by bringing in Aaron Rodgers and as many old scraps as they could from Green Bay to appease the senile old man. But you know, Aaron Rodgers is actually joining an absurdly talented Jets team, one that has a stable head coach in Robert Saleh, one of the most lethal young wideouts in the league in Garrett Wilson, and arguably the best cornerback in football in just his second year. On paper, this looks like the perfect opportunity for the Jets to make a Super Bowl run, but I can't help but think, isn't this the exact same thing that we were saying about the Broncos last year? A controversial quarterback who struggled in his last season with his longtime team, who is fully expected to bounce back with a new team spearheaded by a great defense. And yes, I know Rodgers has as much familiarity as possible with his aforementioned buddies in Cobb and Lazard following him, as well as his old offensive coordinator and, ironically, former Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett, but although all of that is amazing, if Rodgers doesn't have more than 2.1 seconds in the pocket every time he drops back, the now 39-year-old man can only do so much. It's terrifying to me that the Jets already believe they have a Super Bowl contender, signing guys like Dalvin Cook when it really isn't necessary. And I swear, I really want to be optimistic about this team, but even Jets fans should know best. Things can go so poorly for this squad. No. I did not like this team last year. By far the most boring team in the league fixed their play calling issues by bringing Bill O'Brien back to the hive, because we got to make sure that Mac Jones doesn't develop. That is extremely important. Look, this team does have pieces. They have Matt Judon, Josh Uche, and I don't know, maybe Ramondre Stevenson, but it looks like we might just have to strap up and watch Bill and the boys roll out another 500 team that plays the most boring football that can conceivably be played. Good defense, terrible offense. That'll be the narrative the Patriots will be remembered by in their post-Tom Brady years. And unless Zeke can turn the clock back 28 years or something, it's going to be another year of waiting for Bill to retire so you can tear this whole operation apart piece by piece from the top down. I'm so sorry, Buffalo. I still will die on the hill that if the Bills had even average injury luck last year, they would have won the Super Bowl, but that's just not how football goes sometimes. Literally everything with Buffalo depends on health, and although I really don't expect anything from Von Miller at this point, by the time he returns, I don't know, I guess anything is possible, and if Tre'Davious White and Micah Hyde can stay healthy, I don't see any reason why the Bills can't maintain a top 5 defense. And on offense, they've arguably improved as well, with James Cook getting a better understanding of the scheme and Josh Allen and Diggs primed to do their thing again. The Bills are once again going to have to beat themselves to find a way to lose the division, or just, you know, get unlucky with injuries or something, because they are pretty good at that too. And this is all assuming that that little meltdown they had against the Bengals was more of a testimony to the Bengals' defensive scheme and the elements. But Josh Allen, this is your opportunity. Go out there and win an MVP and prove that you have what it takes to be an all-time great quarterback. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to be a team that plays to their strengths and desperately tries to hide their weaknesses. And if they don't follow that game plan, they are going to get toasted through the air. With the departures of 3 starters in the secondary alone in Eli Apple, Von Bell, and Jesse Bates, things are going to get shaky back there. And if you're trying to beat Patrick Mahomes, an inconsistent secondary is not exactly going to get the job done. But meanwhile, on offense, Cincy should be able to just outscore teams as long as Joe Burrow's injury isn't too serious and Joe Mixon doesn't whip out his dreaded right hook anymore. The Bengals can continue to mask Zach Taylor as a good NFL coach. Still though, it is going to have to take an apocalyptic event for the Bengals not to be the greatest threat to the Chiefs outside of probably the Bills. Sort of, at least. How did it come to this? Why did it come to this? I would say at least 14 people's job security next year counts on whether this slimy can throw a football like he could 3 years ago. And although it is a possibility that Deshaun could be good again all of a sudden, putting every egg into the basket that should be nowhere near eggs is an awful decision. And if Watson can't get things together in his first 4 weeks this season, anarchy is going to take over in Cleveland. Please, just can you not waste another year of Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb being special players? I mean, I love laughing at the Browns as much as the next guy, but at this point, it's just kind of getting sad. This team is just the Patriots, but pretty much better at everything. Probably a better quarterback, better weapons on offense, a slightly worse defense, but they have a TJ Watt. As long as that thing can stay healthy, he'll be able to harness that Watt energy he's become a sensei at controlling to put in another great run at the Defensive Player of the Year. And pairing him with Minkah Fitzpatrick, Alex Highsmith, and Cam Hayward, who is somehow still incredible, the Pittsburgh defense is going to be terrifying yet again. But you probably already knew that, because the offense is where the real concerns lie. And although I'm unpleasantly surprised the Steelers kept offensive coordinator Matt Canada around, if Kenny Pickett can't get things together this year with 3 serviceable receivers, a budding tight end, and a pair of dangerous running backs, I don't think it'll be safe to say that he has a future with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Unlike the Browns though, not everything is riding on the quarterback play, and if he checks down the ball enough and masters the curl route, the Steelers could easily limp into the wildcard round, but no further than that. There are so many question marks surrounding Baltimore. For the first time with Lamar as the primary starter, Greg Roman will not be in his booth calling the plays, so the run-heavy team we've been so used to seeing over the past 4 years may no longer exist, and instead could be replaced with Lamar diming up his speedsters for 60 minutes of agony for secondaries. But at the same time, if you have Lamar Jackson on your team and this special of an offensive line, they might just stick to the run to some extent as well. So while the offense could be impossible to contain in theory, the defense honestly has potential to be even better. They basically just swapped corners with the Raiders, losing Marcus Peters, but picking up Rock Ya-Sin to complement Marcus Williams and Marlon Humphrey, as well as the young dog Kyle Hamilton, whose name will become mainstream by the end of this season, for better or for worse. And with Roquan Smith also getting a full offseason to train with the team, this Ravens team is so dangerous and reminds me a little bit too much of that 2019 team that came so close to almost having glory. But anyways, if you like this video, then subscribe, as I got a lot of videos on the channel not like this one, but if you're into documentary things, then you should watch this video right here, where I went over the agony of the Dallas Cowboys and why they've been so bad over the last 20 years or so. It's pretty good, trust me. Anyways, until next time.